Hi everyone, I want to welcome you to Team AMP's Ambit Energy Canada Build Training Presentation. Guys, my name is Stephen and I feel very honored and privileged to be able to share this information with you today. So if you're a brand new consultant, welcome. Welcome to the team. Welcome to what I feel is probably one of the greatest opportunities on earth. You're definitely at the right time and the right place and everything's in sync. You're in for a definite treat. So this presentation is really to help you get started, to help you understand why Ambit offers, what we feel to be such a strong value proposition, understand a little bit about rates, and finally, how to go through some bills when you're dealing with customers. So very, very good little presentation we have set for you guys. Good training. I'm going to encourage everyone to grab a sheet of paper and a pen and maybe take some notes. I promise you that the stuff we're reviewing isn't particularly difficult. It's definitely not rocket science, but there are a few key points here that you probably want to take note of. So I'd encourage you to do that. So without further ado, let's get started. So the very first thing I want to show you guys is a website. It's not an Ambit website. This is the Utility Consumers Advocate website. You guys may have heard of it. You might have heard it on the radio here in Alberta after the Alberta government raised the carbon levy in 2018. They were advertising this website on every radio station for about 2 months. And really they were telling consumers that they can go onto this website and find out more about the energy industry, find out more about different retailers, and really shop to save money. So the Utilities Consumer Advocate, ucahelps.alberta.ca. I highly, highly encourage you to write down this website and kind of peruse it and go through it later on when you have some time. You don't have to spend 2 hours going through it, but just 5-10 minutes and just play with it, look at it. There's a lot of interesting reads here, a lot of things that'll help you become, beyond just an Ambit energy consultant, but a true energy consultant. Someone who can offer lasting value to somebody without even needing to sell anything. So really, really powerful when you kind of take on that role as an energy consultant. So ucahelps.alberta.ca. This site is paired with the Alberta Utilities Commission. The real power of this site that we like to lean on is the fact that all of the retailers here in Alberta are registered here. We can find a list of all of the retailers. We can see who's who in the zoo. We can find out exactly what kind of packages they have for the most part, as well as what kind of, perhaps contracts, exit fees, all that kind of stuff, just details about retailers. And I'm going to do that with you right now. So this third tab here, retailers and distributors, we click on that. The first thing we're going to see is we're going to see a list of all the regulated rate companies here in Alberta. And as you can see, there's 9 of these. You might be familiar with AltaGas or ENMAX or EPCOR or Direct Energy Regulated Services. So these are the regulated rate companies. A regulated rate company is basically a default incumbent provider of gas and electricity to consumers. So what does that mean? That means if I moved into a home, for example, and I didn't choose my retailer, then the city would automatically appoint me one of these regulated retailers for my gas and one of these regulated retailers for my electricity. So for those of you up north in northern Alberta, maybe in the Peace Region area, you would have Direct Energy Regulated Services for gas and Direct Energy Regulated Services for electricity. Coming into, we'll say, the Calgary area, we'll have Direct Energy Regulated Services for gas, but we would have ENMAX Power Corporation for our electricity, and they would provide us a regulated rate. So the regulated rates, so you guys understand, those are by definition variable rates. They're variable rates because they fluctuate, they move, they're very different from a fixed rate. But these particular variable rates, the regulated variable rates, are different from everyone else's in that, there's no transaction fee. There's a small regulator fee associated to it, but there's no transaction fee. So that's really the power of the regulated rate companies, and I'll show you how powerful that is when we actually look at some rate history. So the next thing I want to show you guys is the competitive price companies or the competitive retailers. Here's a list of them. Now, if you've seen the presentation, you know that there's nearly 40 different retailers here in Alberta. This list will not comprise of all 40. The reason being, some of these companies on this list, they're parent companies to, smaller subsidiaries. I'll show you a company, Just Energy. I'm going to use them as an example. I think they have 5 or 6 other smaller companies with a different brand that roll up to them. So, it doesn't change the fact that there's a lot of retailers here in Alberta. Now you're going to see on the top row, third from the left, Ambit Energy Canada. So Ambit Energy is a registered retailer here. We're right beside ATCO, as you can see. And yeah, so we're fully registered. We're here doing business, and it's absolutely very exciting. So here's a list of all the retailers. Now, the reason why I want to show you this list is not just to prove to you that we're registered and legitimate. Obviously, we are. We're a much bigger company than probably 95% of all these companies, and Max and ATCO inclusive. But what I want to show you is I want to show you how much of a resource this website is. So when we're looking at customers, we're looking at changing bills, a lot of times we're going to encounter companies that we've never heard before, or never heard of before, never seen before. We don't really understand them. And what we really want to focus on is we want to focus on the idea that if we switch them out, that the consumer doesn't have to pay some sort of, ludicrous or grandiose, huge, ginormous sort of exit fee. Right? So let's talk about exit fees really, really quickly. The vast majority of the major retailers, companies such as all the regulated retail providers, maybe an NMAX, maybe an ATCO, these big retailers, when you switch your business out of these companies, if you were to switch them to Ambit, there would be no exit fee. Now, a lot of consumers will think that they're on some sort of contract. They'll believe, hey, I called in, I'm on a 5-year fixed contract with NMAX for my electricity. If I switch, I'm afraid I'm going to have to pay some sort of penalty, right? And that's a legitimate concern. But I'll tell you, a contract by definition when it comes to the retail energy business is very different from what we traditionally feel a contract is. A contract, when you look at an energy retailer, is really them committing to a price or contracting a price to the consumer over a certain amount of time. So that contract can be broken at no penalty. So companies like NMAX, companies like ATCO, there's no penalty to switch. Now, there's an exception here. Sometimes people do have to incur some fees when switching, and this usually happens if the consumer or the customer had received some sort of free gift from these companies. So, for example, years ago, NMAX gave away free high-efficiency light bulbs, right? LED light bulbs, they gave them away. Now, if somebody had moved from that plan, they might not have to fulfill any sort of contract, but NMAX might actually ask them to pay out their light bulbs to buy the gift back because they're leaving so soon. So things like that can happen. So when I'm dealing with customers who are with major retailers, the first question I ask them is, have you ever received anything free from your retailer? Did you ever get anything free from NMAX or ATCO? Vast majority of the time, it's going to be a no. And if it's a no, then they're pretty much safe to switch. Now, if the customer's unsure or they want some reassurance, there's some verbiage they use, or you can provide them some verbiage to use when they want to call in, because obviously they're going to want to call in and they're going to want to ask their retailer. And the verbiage is simple. And I'm going to ask you to write this down. The verbiage is important. It's not just simple, but it's important. What you want the customer to say is you want them to say, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm wondering if I switch retailers, will I incur an exit fee? I'm going to repeat that so you can write that down. If I change retailers, will I incur an exit fee? So very simple. They're going to get a very cohesive, simple, transparent answer that will create ultimate clarity. Now, the reason why we want to provide this verbiage is a lot of customers will call into their retail provider and they'll ask something like, hey, if I terminate my contract, do I have to pay a fee? Well, the retailer will always say, well, if you're going to terminate your contract, just give us 30 days notice and we'll do so for you. But when you're talking to a retailer and we're talking about contracts and terminating a contract, that retailer actually is going to assume not that you're leaving, porting your business to another retailer. They're going to think you want to discontinue service completely to your site. So if you're home, you call NMAX and say, I want to terminate my contract, they're going to think that you're moving out of the house. you're moving away. You don't want electricity service at your site anymore. So definitely the wrong thing to say. So always ask, if I change retailers, will I incur an exit fee? So now that we understand these big companies don't have exit fees, and if you want to double check which ones are which, simply go on this website and look. But sometimes we're going to come across different companies that we're not familiar with that may have an exit fee, and it's very prudent for us to check on behalf of our customers because we want to provide superior service, right? We don't want them to have any unfortunate surprises. So, a little bit prudent, we can always check this website. For example, in my network, I've come across a lot of Just Energy bills. So if I wanted to find out more about Just Energy and whether or not there was an exit fee, I can come to this website. I can actually go to the Just Energy website and read through all their fine print, but this website gives actual summaries of all of the plans, and it's a lot easier to go here. So Just Energy, I can click on residential. It's going to list all of these residential plans for me to look at. So let's, for example, look at price protection plan 5-year term. This is a natural gas and electricity plan, $4.19 a gigajoule and $6.19 a kilowatt hour for electricity. So a little bit pricey, but it is a fixed rate. So after I click on the details of the plan, it's going to talk about eligibility, terms and conditions, all that kind of stuff. But what I'm really looking for here is early exit fee. You're going to see this on the bottom here. So early exit fee, if you cause the Just Energy contract to end early, you'll owe Just Energy an early exit fee of $100 per site ID in the first year and no early exit fee thereafter. The exit fee will be waived if the cancellation is made by directly calling Just Energy. So what does this really say? It's pretty much saying that if you terminate the contract 1 year, within the first 365 days of jumping into your Just Energy contract, then you're subject to a $100 fee. That means if you go and you switch them, right? We haven't contacted them. If we just switch them and they switch over and it's been under a year for them for their service with Just Energy, well, hey, they're going to have to pay $100. If it's beyond a year, they won't have to pay. So these are really, really good things to know. I'm going to tell you that we've had Just Energy customers who switched within their first few months. They paid the $100. Why? Because we're able to offer, substantial savings that more than overcompensate for the $100 lost for their gas and $100 lost for the electricity. So pretty cool there. So next is I really want to show you guys the rates. And before I get into the really juicy stuff, I'm going to show you that we can actually find price history on all of the regulated rate providers here in Alberta. That's for both electricity and gas. So if you come across a customer who happens to be with a regulated rate provider on their regulated variable rate, well, if you want to do some reverse calculations on maybe potential money that they would have saved, well, here we have a history of all the rates. So this is a very cool tool. All of these rates are posted on the first of the month, and they're available for everyone to see. And we're going to see here they're showing the last 2 calendar years, 2017 and partial of 2018. So really cool here, a very, very cool resource. I invite you guys to use this as part of your information arsenal. Now, the real reason I want to show you this website is I really want to talk about rates. I want you guys to really understand why Ambit Energy makes sense and why this opportunity is so unique and so powerful. And I want you to understand, our value proposition and how it comes about. So before I describe everything, I'm just going to show you a little bit of rate history. I'm going to show you the last 2 years on this chart. This chart only goes back 2 years. I'm only able to project 2 years. If you guys want to come into the site and you want to see more than 2 years, you can actually pull some Excel files and do some data dump files and find a little bit more history. But I'm going to tell you, from my own research, it's always been about the same. So starting with electricity. First thing we see here is we see 3 different rates. We see the 24-month average regulated rate here in Alberta, 3.92 cents a kilowatt hour, super cheap. Right next to that is the average fixed rate. Now, I'm going to say something. When we say average regulated rate, that's going to be the average regulated rate amongst all the different regulated providers here in Alberta. The average fixed rate is going to be all the different competitive retailers, because only competitive retailers will offer fixed rates. All the competitive retailers across all of the different plans they have, be it 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, doesn't matter. They're taking the average of all the plans and they're coming up with a rate here. And what do we see? It's 6.1 cents, expensive. We'll talk about the rates in a moment, or the details of the rates in a moment. But the next thing is going to be the 24-month average variable rate. Now, this is the variable rate offered by a competitive retailer. So who's a competitive retailer? A competitive retailer will be a company like ATCO Energy, for example, right? So their average price is 4.51 cents a kilowatt hour. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that the regulated rate beats everyone. I'm going to repeat that. The regulated rate, the actual price for a unit of electricity through a regulated rate provider, an Alberta Utilities Commission, Alberta government regulated rate provider, is cheaper than everyone else, right? You know, that's better than the market variable offered by competitive retailers. It's almost like if someone moved to a home and they didn't pick up their phone and call some company and tried to get the same bill, whatever the case was, they would save more money. Quite simple. And both rates, by the way, are better than the fixed. Why? I'm going to tell you why. First off, I'm going to say historically, we're talking years and years and years upon years of averages, a variable rate has beat a fixed rate pretty much year after year. Why is that so? Well, the reason is when you get into a fixed rate, you're paying a premium. It's kind of like insurance. You're paying a premium on your rate to make sure that, you know, it's pretty consistent in what you deem fair, right? People want consistency and they want competitiveness. So this really fits for some people, right? But on the overall, you know, look at that price inflation versus just a regulated rate. They're paying more than 50% more for every unit of electricity just in the last couple of years by going to a fixed rate. Now, the average electricity consumption bill might be, we'll call it $60. So what if it was $60? Then that would mean if they went with a regulated rate, they would have only paid $40. So, you know, $20 for that, 20 times 12, an extra $240 for that insurance. Why would you pay that? Especially when year after year after year, the fixed rate has been the most expensive. I'll tell you something, guys. Energy in Alberta is really cheap. We are an energy hub. We are particularly cheap. It makes no sense to pay a premium for a fixed rate. Now, I'm not saying that the regulated rate or the variable rate can't go above the fixed rate. Obviously, it can. Don't be ridiculous, right? There's going to be swings. It's variable, it moves. But in the long run, the averages, it saves substantial money. So my default is I always tell clients, don't go in a fixed rate, right? We'll get you into a variable, and better still, we'll get you into our variable. Now I'm going to explain why. We're going to talk a little bit about Ambit, and this is very important, guys, so pay attention to this. How does Ambit Energy price their commodity? Well, the way that we price our electricity and the way we price our natural gas is simple. We have a very simple business model. We move into a region, we find out who the default and the incumbent providers are because they're the majority share owner. They own the biggest market share. We want to compete against them. We can't worry about all the other smaller companies that might vary themselves with pricing. We don't worry about all the other competitive retailers. The only thing that we look at is we find who the incumbent provider is and we beat them on pricing. That's all we do, right? So for electricity, what do? We come in and we beat this regulated rate, and we beat it in the long run. We beat it in the long run. Now, this is very important to note. When I say we beat this, it doesn't mean we beat it month after month after month. It means we might beat it 8, 9, maybe 10 months out of the year. The reason is because Ambit is not only trying to give a competitive price, but we're trying to offer price consistency because people want price consistency. Now, if you've been around the Ambit opportunity since November 2017, and by the way, today is May 3rd, 2018, so about 6 months, right? But in the 6 months' time that we've been here, we have not moved our electricity variable rate from 3.75 cents. 3.75 cents per kilowatt hour. Our natural gas is held steady at $1.80 per gigajoule. That's it. So we come in here, we beat the regulated rate, and as you can see, we're pretty much going to crush everyone. Let me rephrase that, right? We're very competitive versus everyone. Actually, write this down. When we're talking about rates, we're talking about pricing. Get used to using the word competitive. Never, ever, ever, ever ever say that you're the cheapest. It doesn't matter if we are. But when you create that image and knowing that variable rates move, the only thing you can ever do is set yourself up for failure, right? Like I said, we only beat the rates maybe 8, 9, maybe 10 months out of the year. We're going to beat them in the long run. We're going to save them money for sure versus the regular rate for sure. But we're trying to find a sweet spot where we stay and remain competitive, for 4, 5, 6 months. So we don't have to move around very much. So rather than saying we're the cheapest, just say we're very competitive. We're going to save you money. Now I'm going to teach you what to say versus these other market variables. So these, if you remember what I said just 5 minutes ago about the variable rates for competitive retailers, how they actually come up with their pricing is simple. They take their cost of, in this case, electricity, add on whatever fees are associated with storage, delivery, all that kind of stuff, right? And then they add a transaction fee to it. So every competitive retailer will add a transaction fee on top of the pricing for their variable rate. Ambit Energy is the only competitive retailer that does not add a transaction fee. Key point. Write this down, guys. Ambit Energy is the only competitive retailer that does not add a transaction fee on top of all the units of energy they sell for both electricity and gas. Now, why is that significant? Because here, guys, nobody likes to pay fees. In fact, nobody likes to pay their utility bills. Why? Because there's too many fees. Nobody understands their bill. No one understands anything, right? Well, we can explain it to them. It's actually not very difficult. But above and beyond that, it's about fees. No one wants to pay fees. We're like the Costco of energy, right? Why would you go over there? You can pay more fees. Come to us. We have a competitive rate. We just, eliminate some of the fees, and we charge less on our admin fees. Simple. That's how we save, and it's going to amount to a lot of money, and I'll show you guys a little bit later. So here's electricity, guys. Natural gas works exactly the same way. Regulated natural gas rate, 24-month average, $2.25 per gigajoule. Fixed rate, times 2, guys, $4.45 a gigajoule. Why would you go on a fixed rate? Absolutely makes no sense. But the last one is going to be the average variable rate. Again, that's the competitive retailers, $3.01. Why is it so much higher than the $2.25? Simple. Rate calculation is a little bit different, but over and above that, every single one of these retailers, every single one adds a transaction fee. So for example, NMAX today charges 99 cents per gigajoule transaction fee. It's a lot of money. A company like ATCO, they might charge 89 cents. And by the way, ATCO also charges 1 cent per kilowatt hour for their electricity. Those are all transaction fees. Remember, I'm going to reiterate this because it's a big key point. Ambit Energy is the only competitive retailer that doesn't charge a transaction fee, right? And this is the kind of statement that we can sell our customers on because they're factual. They're absolutely factual and they're true. Now, are we going to beat everyone on rates? The truth is, yeah, right? Because we're watching this $2.25 regulated rate. Our entire mission is to beat them over the long haul. Anyone who shops with us, anyone who partners with us over a year will save for sure, right? But generally, I don't like to talk about rates because, like I said, rates fluctuate, right? When you use the word competitive, hey, if we want to talk about the past, we're probably going to save them money. But I dare not talk about the future. That's just me. So that's it about rates, guys. I hope you guys really absorb that aspect. Ambit Energy in Alberta is a particularly powerful opportunity. Why? Because we're built to beat the incumbent. And here in Alberta, no one has beaten the incumbent providers for both gas and electricity for years. And I've also shown you how to position versus these competitive retailers. We're the only competitive retailer that does not charge transaction fees on our variable rates. Quite simple. So that's it for this site. The next thing I want to show you guys or get into is really how to read a bill. And before I do that, I'm just going to show you a couple slides, guys. Now, in case you're wondering, these slides and this kind of chart is not available for distribution. This is not something we distribute. If you happen to make one and it says Ambit Energy, guys, beware of compliance. Don't be distributing these on social media. This is, right now, I'm using this as a training tool, so I can summarize something for our private closed training group. So here are November rates. Now, guys, excuse that this isn't electricity. This is only going to be gas, okay? But we'll talk electricity as well. So here we have, a simple chart that outlines, the major providers here in Alberta for gas. They're pretty much going to be the same for electricity. Now, you'll see on the top there's a variable rate. Like I said, all these competitive retailers, ENMAX, ATCO, Direct Energy Essential Services, they have transaction fees on their variable rates. Direct Energy Regulated Services, that's the regulated rate provider. They're a variable rate, but they don't have a transaction fee. So this is November. This is when we first came in. Direct Energy Regulated Services had their price at 1.825 a gigajoule. Ambit just came in at $1.80. Our product team felt that that was a very good price to settle at, and we would stay competitive, and they were right. We've been competitive for the last 5-6 months. Right. Not only have we beat the market rate for the vast majority of these companies, we didn't have a transaction fee, but that's the variable. So look at the difference, right? This is really what we do. Transaction fee, transaction fee, transaction fee. You eliminate those, it's a lot of money. Do you see how much a difference the transaction fee will make on the price per gigajoule? Now think about electricity. ATCO, 1 cent per kilowatt hour. When you're adding that transaction fee, how much is that? Right? When you're looking at these different retailers, these transaction fees add up. So that's the variable. If you look at our fixed year contracts, guys, I added these here because I want you to know that in the event that somebody doesn't want to move into the variable rate, I'm going to highly encourage you to sell it. Right? I'm going to highly encourage you to put them there because really you're setting your customer up for success when you do that. But if they happen to want to go into a fixed rate, take a look at our fixed rates. These were November fixed rates versus the market. We crush everyone. Right? NMAX fixed 1 year, 379, we're 359. Hey, not a lot of savings, 20 cents, but 20 cents is 20 cents. Fixed 3 year, hey, we beat them by 70 cents. It's aggressive. So there's also small commercial pricing here. The commercial is particularly aggressive because we reward consumption, and we came in at $1.65. Today that's changed as of May. Today we're at $1.72, and our 1 year fix for commercial is $2.52. But not important, guys. I just want you to know that we're extremely competitive across the board for both gas and electricity. Now, here's what I want you guys to take note of, is I want you guys to take note of monthly administration fees. The fees are where it's at. Nobody likes to pay fees. Ambit is a home run in eliminating fees, and here's how we do it. First, let's diminish, obviously, here's how we do it. We eliminate the transaction fee, fantastic, but we also reduce monthly administration fees. So take a look at these. Remember these numbers. They're going to help you for all the major providers. NMAX, $7.10 average. Right? We're $5. What's that mean? They're $2.10 more than us on a monthly basis. That's $25 a year. We can automatically save customers $25 a year on their monthly fee. ATCO, they're cheap, $5. Fantastic. Direct Energy Essential Services, if those are those two blue bills, right? Gas and electricity, and the way they sell it is they say, come and save money, pretty much on fees. Everyone likes to save on fees. If you have both services with Direct Energy Essential Services, you only pay $12 for your total monthly administration fee. That's for both gas and electricity. But here's a secret. If you only have one service, they still charge you $12. I'm going to repeat that. If you only have one service, they still charge you $12. Right? I just switched someone's bill. They had electricity only with Direct Energy Regulated Services, $12 a month monthly administration fee. Definitely they were on with the wrong company, wrong plan. Everything was just wrong. But we fixed them up. They're very happy today. Here we have Direct Energy Regulated Services next, $7.50. That's going to be an average, right? There's different prices depending on where you live, the meter, north, south, ATCO, all this kind of stuff. But the average price is around $7.50, right? So for us, it's a $2.50 savings a month. It's going to be $30 a year. Here's a quick glimpse at December. Remember I talked about being competitive versus the incumbent. There you can see the incumbent's price was $2.30 per gigajoule. We stayed at $1.80. Hey, this is excellent. In December, it was super cold. It's Christmas time. People are making turkeys. They have their heat on. They have all that kind of stuff. People are using 30 or 40 gigajoules, right? If you're with the former best provider, so formerly number one, we'll call them formerly number one. Well, you do 30 gigajoules, you spent an extra 50 cents per gigajoule times 30, it's $15 plus your admin fee is $17.50. It's almost 20 bucks on gas. For what? Gas is gas, electricity is electricity. The same gas is delivered through ATCO. The same electricity is either delivered through ATCO or delivered through NMAX. It's the same thing. I promise you, gas from another company does not smell better than our gas. Electricity from another company does not light your house brighter than electricity from NMAX or electricity from Ambit, pardon me. It is exactly the same stuff. It's just a different price. That's all we do. So I'm now going to show you guys some bills, and I'm going to teach you guys one of the ways that we can talk about savings and talk about value when we're dealing with customers. So please excuse that these are only gas bills. Where I'm at here in Calgary, we really only have gas currently, so I don't have a lot of electricity bills. But fundamentally, it's going to be the same, I promise you. So starting with direct energy regulated services, actually, before we start there, I'm going to give you guys a little formula. And I'm going to ask you guys to write this down. I'm going to write it down at the same time. I'm going to teach you guys to really focus on fees, how to talk about rates, and how to wrap it all together every time we talk to a customer. So the first thing you always want to identify is going to be the monthly administration fee. You see this page, I've circled it, but write this down, monthly administration fee. The second thing I'd like you guys to write down will be transaction fees. Those are the two things that we're going to focus on. And when it comes to rates, we're going to do rates as well, but rates, the default answer that you're going to use, that I would encourage you to use, that I use with great success, is that we're very competitive. We're very competitive. And we'll go more into detail about that later. But that's it. Administration fee, transaction fee, and rates. That's what we're focusing on. That's going to be the bulk of the bill. Being in a deregulated industry, the only things we can change when we change our energy retailer is we change the price for the actual supply of gas or the actual supply of electricity. Those are the only two things that we can influence. Obviously the monthly administration fee, but that's over and above. But that the delivery portion of the bill, the delivery by the ATCOs or the deliveries by the NMAXs, we can't change those. We can't change those. ATCO owns the pipes, NMAX owns the wires, ATCO owns the wires. We're paying for, rental of their equipment, rental for the pipes. We're paying various Alberta taxes, carbon levy, rate riders, all that's included there. No one can change that. So when we want to save people money, we just save money on the price of the supply. So let's carry on. So going with direct energy regulated services, we're going to go back to our chart. Remember, we have three things to look at: admin fee, transaction fee, and rates. So how would I approach this bill? Well, the first thing I look at is administration fee. So the administration fee for this customer is $7.72, and that's a fixed charge. Now, as you know, Ambit charges $5. So $2.70 savings per month, times 5, let's just keep it very simple, or times 12 months, keep it very simple, let's just call it $30. So the first thing we do when we switch this customer is we can save them over $30 just on fees. But now let's talk about the rates. And here's where it's a good time to kind of go back to UCA Helps, and you can compare rates if they want. Ideally, you want to tell the customer that, Ambit Energy is designed to be very competitive versus this company, versus the incumbent. We'll save you money in the long run. Simple. Well, prove it to me. Somebody asks you to prove it? No problem. I can go back into UCA Helps. I can pull up the rates and I can compare. I can do a calculation if the customer wants. But when you're dealing with your friends and family, when you're dealing with people who are close to you, who trust you, remember the system. This business, step one of our part one of the 2 steps in building the Ambit business is gather a handful of loyal customers, people we know, love, and trust. Well, when there are people we know, love, and trust, they're not really going to question you about rates. Now that you've actually done rate training, now you understand the rates, you know for a fact that they're going to get a lot of value. So when you're dealing with your family and friends, just tell them we're very, very competitive. If they want it proven, maybe it's someone in your extended network, they want it proven, then show them. We can do that. Everything we do, everything we say is going to be able, we're going to be able to substantiate via third party. And the best thing is we do it through a government website. So that's really the powerful value proposition. So for this customer, by the way, guys, this customer happened to be my mom. This was my mom. My mom, I called my mom and said, Mom, I'm doing energy. She says, what is it? And I said, Mom, I'm a certified energy consultant. Basically, I'm going to save people money on energy. Let's get your bill switched. I can save you some money. Mom said yes. She didn't care about rates. She doesn't have to, right? I know it all. I'm kind of doing it for her, but she's going to save money. So that's what I do with direct energy regulated services customers is say, hey, we're going to save you on the monthly fee. Save you about $30 a year. I know it's not a lot, but before we came, this was the top provider. Keep in mind, okay? But we'll save you a little bit over $30 a year on the monthly administration charge or the administration fee. But more important than that, with your rate, we're built to be competitive versus your rate. And we beat you guys consistently. Those of you who are particularly astute, you can go back and you'll realize that we've beat the direct energy regulated services rate by an average of almost 25 cents since we've come in, and that's per month. So very powerful there. So the next bill I'm going to show you is an NMAX bill. Simple NMAX bill. By the way, guys, when you look at NMAX, every single bill is going to look different. The NMAX floating charge, you're going to see there on the energy charge for September and October, 123 and 170. Now, that charge is going to be different every time for every single customer. NMAX doesn't just give a blanket charge that they charge sort of on a monthly basis. Their rate is based on what we call a daily variable. So they're going to look at the cost of gas for them on a daily basis and then factor in some surplus charges and then kind of provide it to the customer and create an average out of that. So that's how they do that. But aside from that, what do we do with this bill? I get this bill, I want to analyze it. What am I going to do? What am I going to say? Well, simple. Let's follow the formula. The very first step is we're going to look at the administration charge. Now, if you remember me saying on the last chart that the average NMAX charge is $710 a month, and that equates to $25 savings when they move over to Ambit. Why is this one $6.77? Well, if you look in the top left corner there, it says days billed, it says 29. 29 is not a full month. So their $7.10 got prorated. That's why. But over the course of the year, it's going to average to $710. We're going to save them $25. Super simple. So the very first thing I look at this bill is, hey, first thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease your fees and eliminate fees. That's what I'm going to do for you, unless you like paying fees, right? Nobody likes paying that. So admin fee, done, $25 a year. Next thing we're going to see, we're going to make sure that they're on a floating rate. If they weren't on a floating rate, I would explain it. I would position ours, right? But they're already on a floating rate, fantastic. Look at that. Floating rate comes with what? Transaction fee. Remember, every competitive retailer in Alberta, except for Ambit, has this transaction fee. In this case, it's 99 cents per gigajoule. So this customer, if you look at this histogram, this little bar chart on the right, this shows their past usage of gas. Now, all things being equal, we can do a nice little yearly calculation here, a nice little estimate on how much gas they're going to use. So based on this histogram, let's just say this customer uses about 125 gigajoules per year of gas, which happens to be just about around the Alberta average per household. So they use 125, they're paying an extra 99 cents. Hey, that's an extra $125 in transaction fees they're paying for nothing. Switch over to Ambit. What am I going to do? Well, first things first is this transaction fee. First things first is the admin fee. I'm going to decrease that. I'm going to knock it down. I'm going to save you $25 a year in that. But the really, really important one is this. You're with a retailer. Hey, right plan, absolutely the right plan. You should be on a variable, but wrong company. Why is it the wrong company? Because they charge you a transaction of 99 cents per gigajoule. Listen, I'm an energy consultant. I'll set you up, decrease monthly admin fee, but I will eliminate, I will remove this transaction fee for you so you don't have to pay it anymore. That's how we sell. right? So just by decreasing the monthly fee and removing this fee, I'm going to save you, probably about $150 a year. Well, perfect, excellent. If they don't talk about rates, switch them right there. If they happen to talk about rates, simple. Our rates are very competitive. We're very competitive. In fact, if you look back at history, we've beat NMAX by about 20 cents a month on average since we've come into the market. But it's a variable rate, it moves up and down. But just rest assured, we stay very competitive. Then the customer might ask you, well, you're saying you're competitive. How do I know you're going to remain competitive? Well, simple. Well, when you join a variable rate with us, we have no contract and we have no exit fee. If at any time you're unhappy, you can just switch out. It won't cost you a thing. But I'm telling you, be my customer. I'm going to save you money. So simple. Very, very simple. So that's an NMAX bill. The last bill I'm going to show you guys is going to be an ATCO bill. And I chose this bill in particular because it's a little bit challenging on the surface level. So let's kind of go through this. I know we have sort of a structure, admin fee, transaction fee, rates. Well, with the ATCO bill, the very first thing you see on the top, it sticks out like a sore thumb, before admin fee is a $25 credit, anniversary credit of $25. What's that mean? Well, ATCO is going to give this customer or reward this customer $25 a year as an anniversary credit. So a switch to Ambit would actually mean that the customer's out $25. Well, that's not cool, but it is what it is, right? So let's go back to the chart. What do we do? The next thing we talk about is admin fee. My God, the ATCO admin fee is supposed to be $5. That's what they promote now. But this customer is on some sort of loyalty program. Let's check it out. Their admin fee is $7.13. They have an admin fee savings of $3.57. So we're going to say roughly they're paying $3.50 a month. Ours is $5. They're beating us again. Well, not good, not cool. How can they do it? Well, let's talk about it. Actually, let's not talk about it. Let's talk about this. Pardon me. So they're $3.50. We're $5. They beat us by $1.50. $1.50 times 12 months is $18. So what do we have so far, guys? A switch over to Ambit would cost them $25 on anniversary credit, $18 on admin fee. That's already $43. Switch to Ambit, they lose out on $43. Well, where do we usually win? Where do we usually win with a competitive retailer? We're going to win on the transaction fees. Why? Because we are the only competitive retailer with no transaction fees for both gas and electricity. So let's look for transaction fees. My goodness, they don't have a transaction fee. Now, they're definitely on a variable rate. You can read on the top, it says NG variable, natural gas variable, but they have no transaction fee. Why is that? Well, I'm going to tell you why. There is a transaction fee, but ATCO actually rolls out their rates a little bit differently, or they do their billing differently from a company like NMAX per se. If you go back, or you remember that chart that I showed you, ATCO is a major provider. ATCO charges an 89-cent per gigajoule transaction fee. You can see that on the chart. In fact, you can go to the ATCO Energy website. You can check it yourself. They charge 89 cents per gigajoule transaction fee. Over and above, you know what? I'm going to show you something fun. ATCO's market rate, their daily variable, from September 1st to 30th is $2.05. If I go back to this NMAX chart, you're going to see the first energy charge line September 1st to 27th was only $1.23. The ATCO charge, the ATCO market rate was supposedly an additional, 82 cents, 80 something cents, right? So unless, gas costed $15 on September 28th, 29th, and 30th, it's impossible to hit $2.05. The only reason it hits $2.05 is because ATCO gives their rate, then they charge the 89-cent transaction fee in there. So after we educate the customer, and now we know where we stand. So without looking at the histogram, just like the last chart, average household uses will say about 120 gigajoules per year of gas. We're talking gas now. So 120 times 89. You know what? For simplicity's sake, let's just call that $110, okay? $110. That means on transaction fee, we can save them $110. Now, we're talking about fees. We're focusing on fees. What's that mean? That means after ATCO has thrown these guys everything, they've given them an anniversary credit, they've reduced their monthly fees, this customer feels like they're on top of the world, and to be honest, this is a pretty good plan versus the rest of the market. But still, because we're the only competitive retailer with no transaction fee, they can't touch us. They can't touch us. $43 out, and $110 back in. And that pretty much means that a switch over, we're going to save just shy of $70 in fees on a yearly basis, right? Rates competitive. All else being equal, it's about $70 a year. And this is a very, very, very difficult and tight bill where someone's getting massive loyalty programs. This is probably a grandfathered customer who's been with ATCO for a long time, maybe called in and did some complaints, and they just threw everything at this customer, right? So, and we still beat them, and we beat them with ease. And again, I'm going to reiterate this. I keep saying it, but I want you guys to just kind of lock it into your arsenal. And that is Ambit Energy. We're the only competitive retailer that offers the variable rate without a transaction fee. And that's really the key. That's really the key. So before I finish, I think I've given you guys enough information. If you want to learn how to position and learn how to, invite and all the really exciting and fun things we do in this business. I'm going to do another webinar. We'll do some other trainings on that another time, but I really want to focus on the more of the technical stuff today. But I want to finish this off by showing you an Ambit Energy bill. So this is an Ambit Energy dual commodity bill. It's going to have both gas service. It's going to have both electricity service. It is a real bill. Note that I've blocked off the customer name and all that stuff. So you're free to use this information at your leisure, but take a really good look at this. Here's the Ambit Energy initial statement. It's very, very simple. It shows usage. Right on the top left, there's a box there. Days billed, right? The days billed is going to reflect on the monthly fee. We don't charge $5 fully if it's only been a portion of the month. We prorate just like NMAX prorates. So in this case, this customer wouldn't have paid $5 for their monthly admin fee because they only had it for 21 days and 19 days, right? But you'll see their usage, average usage per day, but then they'll just have a rate, right? And then they'll come up with a final bill. This is page 1. This is the summary. Page 2 is where we go into the details. Super, super simple. So let's take a look at this. So electricity supply charge, 440 kilowatt hour at 3.75 cents. 3.75 cents. This is for February to March. The regulated rate provider, which no one beats, by the way, would be NMAX. Go back to the UCA help site. NMAX, I think, was 5.3 or 5.5. Don't quote me on that, but they were more expensive, right? So we were very competitive this month, and that's excellent. That's absolutely excellent. Site administration fee, $3.50. Again, not the full $5 because it's been prorated. Then you have the delivery provider charges. Everyone charges this. Everyone has to add this onto the bill, the delivery charges. We actually take this money when the customers pay Ambit. Ambit will take this money and remit it back to, in this case, ATCO Electric. So these delivery charges, again, I'm going to say that no one can impact these. No one can influence these. They are what they are. Everyone pays that. But as you can see, we've decreased the amount for the actual electricity. We've saved the money. Same thing for gas, right? So energy supply charges, $1.80. And guess what? It's a variable rate. And guess what? No transaction fee. No transaction fee and no hidden transaction fee. I didn't say that for electricity, but the same thing was true for electricity. No transaction fee, no hidden transaction fee. This is where we stand out. So very, very simple bill to look at. Energy supply charges, boom, $13.73 total. Site admin $3.17. Why? Because there were only 19 days billed. We wanted to put both the gas and electricity service on one bill. So they gauged the billing dates. Electricity was 21, gas is 19. Fantastic. Super easy for the customer, super, super transparent. So those of you who are up north in the Peace region area, congratulations, guys. You have a fantastic opportunity. At the time of this recording, it's been reported to us from your team and other teams up north that the average household savings up north right now for dual commodity has been about $70 per month. That's really, really big. Now, guys, I'm not going to say we're guaranteeing to save $70 per month. When people switch to Ambit, don't be ridiculous. No one can make that claim, right? But it just so happens in these initial months, maybe the gas prices were really expensive elsewhere, electricity prices were expensive, and we were extra competitive. But at the end of the day, from a business perspective, does it have to be $70? Does it have to be $800,000, $900,000 a year savings to actually build this business? No, right? Remember, we gather a handful of loyal customers, people we know, love, and trust, right? Everyone's getting a value proposition. Think about my mom. She doesn't care what she's saving. She wants to support me. I don't want to stiff her, right? I want her to save money, and she does. Period. End of story. So it doesn't have to be $800,000, $900,000 a year. What if it was only 100 or 200? What if it was anything, right? It's a business based on saving money. Now, it's not going to be 50 cents a dollar. In fact, I'd be hard pressed to think it's anything less on dual commodity, anything less than, 250 or 300 per customer if they're set up very, very well. And the reason I say that is most customers are on a fixed rate. We go in, we educate them, we save them a boatload of money by switching them to a variable. The numbers don't lie. Okay, but let's say somebody was with a decent competitive retailer and they're on, a variable rate for electricity and a variable rate for gas, right? How much money are we going to save those? Kind of a worst case scenario here, or almost worst case scenario for a competitive retailer. Well, do the math. Well, average household uses about 120 gigajoules or 125 gigajoules of gas, right? Transaction fee, we'll call average is $1. That's $125 a year. Now, what about electricity? I would say the average household uses about 10,000 kilowatt hour of electricity a year. 10,000 kilowatt hour. Now, what if there was a 1 cent transaction fee on top of that? Well, a 1 cent transaction fee puts us at $100. We're at $225. Now, we're going to save the average client what? We'll call $25 on monthly administration fees per site. 25 times 2, that's another $50. We're already at $275. And as you can see from our past history, our rates are competitive, right? We may be cheaper, but we don't say that. We just say we're competitive. So the value proposition here is fantastic. The business is super simple. If you're looking for something special, it's really kind of build something for yourself, to begin building your future. If you've got some dreams and you want to achieve those dreams, and what you're doing right now isn't getting you there, guys, I promise you, you're in the right opportunity. This will work if you work it. So I hope you enjoyed this initial build training, guys. You're welcome to send some feedback into the chat if you want. You're welcome to share this with new consultants. I think it's going to have a lot of value. There's going to be more trainings to come. And aside from that, I'm out of here. Have a fantastic and terrific day.